Voila! Buonasera! Welcome back. Walker Wine session number 9 in the history books. Just served a couple of glasses, one wine. Got a Priorat today. It's a Spanish wine, not too far from Barcelona. And as you can see, I just poured the wine for the first time. There's so many different things that can impact wine and wine experiences, traveling to a place, a special occasion. But there's also little things, potentially technical things. And, this wine comes in at, I believe, 14.5% alcohol. So not particularly high in alcohol for this day and age. But usually Priorats are quite expressive and tend to have a higher, it's a warm region. And so I kind of wanted just to see the difference between the wines, especially in the aroma, with a slightly different glass. So this one's a little bit more tapered and narrow at the top. This one's a little bit more open. And so maybe we'll touch a little bit on those today and just kind of see if there are any differences. And if there are, what they are and why that might be so. But to start off, I'll introduce the wine. This is from Clos Berenguer from Priorat. It is a DOQ, the region of Priorat. It is one of 2 different DOQs in Spain. So you've got Rioja, which is the other DOQ or DOC. In Priorat, it's a DOQ because the word calificada becomes qualificada in Catalan, which is the local dialect there near Barcelona. But there's only 2 heralded wine regions, essentially in Spain, that carry this denomination, just like a DOC and DOCG in Italy, or an AOC in France. But from Clos Berenguer, this is their 2017 vintage Clos de Tafall, which is more or less their kind of entry-level red wine that they make. And roughly, I believe, it's about 28,000 bottles annually. It's a kind of a typical blend that you would see from the area as well. You've got a couple different varieties that are more or less indigenous, Grenache being one of them. The other one, which I kind of learned something new, I had heard the grape before, but their dialect for Carignan is Samso. And so this is Grenache dominant at about 40 or so %, and then it's got the Samso or Carignan, and then Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah. And there's more and more Cab Sav and Syrah being planted in that area. It tends to just really love the daytime heat, but also then the fairly cool nights, because you've got a little bit of altitude and proximity as well to the ocean. So, as the crow flies, probably only 15, 20 miles from the ocean, this vineyard site, and really more or less the whole DOQ of Priorat. Also, the DOQ is kind of noted for its slate soils called Licorella, and that's part of the uniqueness of their terroir. And a very dry area, as is a decent amount of Spain. But you usually get wines that are quite powerful, pretty intensely colored, and I think just downright delicious. So we're gonna hop in. I've got a few different things. As you can see, this is at the moment my new setup, so it'll probably change here, there, and yonder, but hopefully you're enjoying the better quality videos. And I've got a little mortadella that I sliced today because I'm just a little hungry, and I think it'll just go lovely with some red wine. All right, I'm gonna start with the small glass, not for any particular reason. So the wine, Grenache, Carignan, Cab Sav, Syrah, about a year in barrel. I wasn't informed if any of the oak was new or not. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of new oak, but maybe not too much. and that it's their entry-level wine. They do make a decent amount of other wines, and they have 3 different estate vineyards. I will say too that this wine is an estate grown bottling, and everything that they make at the winery Clos Berenguer is an estate grown grape and wine. So everything that they produce wine-wise comes from grapes from their property. So, you know, I really like to see that, just because they have one control over the whole start to finish of their agricultural product, which is the grapes, through to the wine. And so, you know, they can put in all the fine details that they need to in the vineyard site, crop more or less, you know, and it just speaks to a little bit more of the proprietary wines that they make, rather than, you know, purchasing fruit from all over, which isn't necessarily a bad way to go, but I think this just speaks a little bit more to myself and the provenance of their wine. So I like to see that, and I like to support that as well. So 12 months in barrel, and I'm definitely gonna, on this review, pop back in a little bit, maybe 30 minutes or so, and do a little touch up with just how the wines are opening up, because I think these wines, it's still fairly young as a 2017. I think time is on its side. So I will revisit them. But first, a little Morty. And I'm not always one for food and wine pairings. I think they can be phenomenal and out-of-body experiences, or lovely, or generic, and or bad, and or I can be indifferent to them. I think it depends on what you're pairing and what your mood is. And at the very minimum, I always suggest that you drink what you like and eat what you like, because that's what you're gonna enjoy. That's my MO. Whew. I got the one peppercorn and the mortadella. Pardon me. So I definitely get a little bit of oak influence here, whether it was barrel or maybe some, you know, some oak alternatives in the form of chips or powder that were added throughout the process. You know, just on first take, I'm liking the wider mouthed glass here to my right, which I believe is your right, your left maybe. I would assume it's your left as the camera's opposite, but fresh roses. Yeah, the alcohol seems to collect a little bit more in the rim of this glass, and it's diffusing and taking over, diffusing the good flavors and taking over a little bit of my olfactory glands at the moment. And I think you get a lot of, you're getting, for me right off the bat, you're getting a little bit of all these grapes. You're getting the red fruit that you potentially get from Grenache, you know, and potentially also from that cab, but you're getting some darker fruit too, from the Syrah, the red fruit and the wildness of that Carignan, Samso. Still tell it's pretty tight. You know, just a mixed bag of fruit. You're definitely getting the oak components. I'm kind of waiting for everything else to unfold. There's this interesting like graham cracker, almost like a wet graham cracker or a stale graham cracker. It doesn't have the cinnamon, but it has that kind of sweet, sweet bread type thing going on. Mm. Wow. That's rich. That is a mouthful. At first, for some reason, the nose was, I was just thinking it was going to be a little bit lighter in the palate. Not exactly sure why as of yet. Hopefully my computer brain will work overtime while I'm doing this and I'll have a good response for you. But I was thinking it was going to be a little thin for a Priorat, but that is certainly not the case. I'll say too, this wine, if you find it somewhere, came to me in that kind of low to mid 20s price point. So, you know, not expensive, not inexpensive. And Priorat too is, you know, there's a few regions that I really love that I think are still undervalued, or you can still find some really lovely wines for great prices. The DOQ in Portugal, where port comes from, they also make dry red wines, which are phenomenal. You know, from inexpensive to expensive. So if you're in a place where you have a good marketplace for wine and good selection, you can hopefully find some of those. Priorat is another one for me that that really sings, especially if you like bigger, bolder, darker wines, or if you're in that mood. As I also like a very red, elegant, low alcohol Pinot Noir as well. It just depends on what I'm looking for. But yeah, Priorat always delivers to me some great value, some great bang for the buck. And so it's one of the places that I always love to explore more wines. And you know, the quality across the board is quite high. I've not had a poor wine from the area. Some just over deliver, and I'm all about that. The nose is still kind of figuring itself out. I would say the palate as well. I'm gonna give these both a little sip, maybe chat briefly a little bit more, and then I'm gonna hit pause and come back. The array of fruits is beguiling. It's literally from cranberry, you know, through to blueberries and blackberries. I think that shows the, you know, certainly the cepage, the blend that they put together here. It's got some very rich tannins, not overly dry, certainly present, kind of a little bit of everywhere on the outside of my mouth, a little bit on my tongue, pretty mouth coating. And right now it's this big arrival mid palate finish, and it's very condensed. You know, there's so many different ways to talk about wine. I think today I'm just kind of introducing a few things that we could touch up on and talk for, you know, minutes and hours about, debate and have good conversation. Whether it be stemware that we've got, blending, alcohol, this, that, or the other. But right now, you know, you can talk about how, you know, why do you enjoy wine? And is it the fruit flavor? Is it the non-fruit flavors, the earthy flavors? And how you talk about it and how you describe it. And I have a good friend of mine who doesn't always describe wines in the form of aromas and flavors, but more so in its delivery and a chart form with an X and Y axis of how it delivers. From the, you know, the initial approach to the mid palate to the finish, and so I think that's a great way to incorporate, you know, different ways of how we perceive these wines and why we like them. You know, there's so many different things about wine. I think people don't, they overlook particularly why they like a big rich Chardonnay or a crisp Sauvignon Blanc or a fat oaky cab from Napa or a dirty earthy Mencia from Northwest Spain. So you know, acid, tannin, all these things, so many different things play a part into why we enjoy wine. And right now, this wine packs a punch, and I like it, but it's tight and condensed and a little closed, other than the fruit that's kind of just all packed in there. It's like you put all the fruit into a little, you know, 4-ounce little container and you wanted more fruit, but they all gave you a 4-ounce thing, and so they just jammed it in there. Anywho, I'm gonna eat a little mortadella, sit back and relax with this wine for a few minutes. I'll be right back with you. Ding. All right, 3/4 of a pizza later. So, initial findings is that I definitely am enjoying the openness of this glass on my right here, the top. Definitely expressing itself much better, alcohol not getting in the way. This one does seem to bring out with that alcohol a little bit more herbaceousness or something, which is nice. As I'm kind of looking for that a little bit. But this wine, it is fruit driven, fruit laden, and that's what it's all about. There are some kind of secondary interesting characteristics. There's a garrigue factor, a French term, and to be honest, I don't even know what it means, although to me it's always, I've had my own definition, and it's been this kind of earthy, dark, oily kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not describing it particularly well, but you know, the fruit's got everything from cranberry to prunes and raisins and in between, and it's quite lovely. You know, it's got an oak aspect to it, and I think it's some kind of alternative. Because it's sticking out a little bit, and you're getting this, for me, like a graham cracker or an Oreo cookie crust, the cookie part that like doesn't really have cocoa in it at all, but it's reminiscent of chocolate, but there's no chocolate. So it's kind of got something along those lines in there too, that it certainly adds another layer to support that fruit. And it has that darkness that Greg was talking about, the, you know, a hoisin aspect, you know, the cooking sauce, the Asian cooking sauce. So it has a very dark kind of earthy thing going on. You know, for me, I'm kind of looking for a mineral component or some herbaceousness or black pepper to come out. I'm not getting it at the moment, and that's okay. You know, this wine is portraying itself just as it should, and it's all about the fruit, and its texture on the palate is just round and rich and voluptuous and coats, and it's, you know, it's sensual and kind of, you know, sexy, and it's not overwhelming, but certainly packs a punch. And I'm really digging that for the price that I paid. Not necessarily have to have it with food. You know, it's got some, you know, some tannins to it for sure, but nothing over the top by any means, and they're well balanced. Really liking it. See if I wrote anything down. You know, it was mostly about the texture on the palate that, you know, is the most surprising. I mean, there's those secondary things I was talking about. There's a little bit of phenol aspect that you might be getting from some oak. But yeah, all in all, a pleasure-filled wine, not to overthink it, and that's okay. And I'm gonna have to be okay with that. I've got, you know, a good half bottle left here, so I'm gonna finish this tonight, and with my 1/4 slice of pizza, and revisit tomorrow. And if there's any major changes to it, I would love to report back. But yeah, a bruiser of a wine, Priorat. I like this. I recommend it. I recommend you go seek out wines in this area, and hopefully there's a few topics that were brought up today that we'll visit and maybe do a little series on, or spend some more time chatting about and diving into a little bit deeper to to explore the world of wine and the journey and the limitless amount of exploration and information and possibilities that lie within this mystical agricultural fermented product that has just been beguiling mankind since some grapes started to ferment in a bucket and we drank the juice, or however that happened. But 2020, cheers. The best way for me to, it's getting better, it needs time. I could just swim through this wine in the palate. It's like your tongue is swimming through it, this beautiful viscosity of a cloud. Anyways, pleasure. Ciao, ciao. All right, day 2, Clos Berenguer, 2017 Priorat. So as you can see, I'm filming the next day, on location here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this wine I just poured, it's on day 2, it's opening up beautifully. The fruit is kind of getting darker, but also there's this really interesting kind of volcanic ash component. I also thought there was like a black forest bacon type of meaty, slightly smoky, cured meat kind of component as well. So definitely with some oxygen, this one is continuing to develop. The fruit hasn't fallen off yet, and it's spot on. And the texture is still lovely. It's rich, big tannin. Really coating everything in your mouth right now, those tannins. They've kind of fleshed out and they're hitting every surface, kind of spreading out in the mouth across the tongue. Really lovely wine, mid-20s. If you like fruit, if you like some structure, if you're a cab person, even if you're a Merlot person, Bordeaux varieties, Rhone varieties, this one's really hitting the spot. So definitely go and explore the terraced out, steep hillside slopes of Priorat just outside of Barcelona in Spain. And until next time, chin chin. Killer fruit, man.